President, please be seated. The court is now back in session. We would like now to hand over to the prosecution to continue putting questions to this witness. Co-prosecutor, thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon to you again, Mr. Suan Kannal. This morning we were talking at the point when we discussed Sector 41, and when we touched upon the Secretary and Deputy Secretary of the sector, you indicated that Singh was the Sector 41's secretary and his successor was Ta'an. You learned about this because you had a small telegram logbook. My question to you, in the telegram contact book or logbook, did you see other people's names? Or what was the book like? Response. Good afternoon, Mr. President and Your Honors. Again, I would like to respond to this question as follows. I learned that Ta'an was the successor because the book regarding the contacts allowed me to see these individuals, because if I had to address Sector 41, I would address Sring. Later on, Sring disappeared, and I was told by the zone that this person was already replaced. And I was told not to say anything about this. Although that was the case, that's what it happened, I was told to keep silent, because if I talked about this, I would be in danger. And I learned this from the messenger. So normally, when the person who was supposed to be the recipient of the telegram disappeared, his or her messenger would disappear alongside. A new person would come into the position. Thank you. Before we move to Sector 42, can you please tell the chamber concerning the tables you talked already? Was it in the form of square tables? The President, you may pause. Now you proceed. Response. In the small book, there was a table for contact. The list of names in coding number, for example, 34 would be translated as Sring. Thank you. I would like now to move to Sector 42. Do you still recollect who were the secretaries and the deputy secretary of Sector 42? The President, Mr. Witness, please be patient and observe some pause. You may now proceed. Response. I still recollect this very well. Like Sector 41, Sector 42 had their own secretary and deputy secretary, but when these people disappeared, they had their own messenger. Question, what were their names? Response, Tol was the secretary. After Tol disappeared, Eun was his successor. Eun was Kai Pok's in-law. Question, do you know where Tol could have disappeared to? Response. Tol had disappeared and I was not informed, or I had no reason to know about this because I worked in a different section. Question. What about Sector 43? Who was the secretary of Sector 43? Response. Sector 43 secretary was also replaced by a new person. First, the person by the name John was in place, and then he was replaced by Tang Ngân. Thank you. Question. This morning you gave meaning to the importance of the telegrams, and I already promised that I would touch upon this again soon. I would like to now ask you to elaborate why telegrams were very important for the communication of the regime at that time. Response. Telegrams are more or less like the blood vessels in the whole body of a human being, and that means that if there was no telegram, there was no blood flowed to different part of the body. It means the whole body will be malfunctioned. So at that time, because of a small problem in the misconnection in the telegram, there was a huge problem caused by this. Question. Did people communicate through other means other than through telegrams? Response. Communication from zone to sector or from sector to the upper echelon was normally done through telegrams because it was more efficient and effective. Question. My question was this. Apart from communicating with one another through telegrams, did people communicate with each other through other means? For example, in the form of letters, messages? Response. Indeed, there were other means of communication through written letters, messages. The President, Co-Prosecutor, please activate your mic. Co-Prosecutor, thank you, Mr. President. Question. Which form of communications would be most favorable? Response. People used telegrams and written letters as means of communication equally, and at each office there would be messenger who carried letters for and to different places. The short messages should be or would be sent through telegrams, when the long messages would be made in the form of written letters. Thank you. In your statement before the co-investigating judges, document E3 stroke 344, ERN 0037 3498, English 00384429, French 00426148. You talked about the hierarchical order in the communication aspect, and you said that the center would be the supreme top level and followed by zone, sector, and district. Do you still stand by this statement of yours? Response: yes, I do. Thank you. I would like to leave this telegram related issue for a while, and I would like my colleague to touch upon this during his time for putting questioning to you after this. And I would like to talk to you about the arrests and disappearances of people. Under document ERN in Khmer 00373513, English 00390079, 00424039. The investigators asked you about the arrest, and you said that when the situation changed, people continued to be arrested, and these people who were arrested were those who had been implicated in other people's confessions, and people were arrested in the form of strings, and their associates were arrested all at the same time. Do you still stand by this statement? And this is what, was that what you saw during that time? Response: I still maintain this position. Thank you. I have a few questions concerning your personal observation and your experience. I would like you to please tell the chamber what it means by way of disappearing or disappearance. Response: disappearing means that I no longer saw the people. I only saw newcomers. I saw people coming to attend meetings, people from different sectors, zone, but the others could no longer be seen. So I believe that they disappeared. Question: under document ERN 00 in Khmer 003271, rather 00327110 or 390077 in English, and French 00424032. In that you said that disappearance means some people disappear because of natural cause of death and some because they never appeared. Do you stand by this position? Response: yes, I do. Question: under the same document, a few lines underneath that paragraph, document in Khmer 0375311, French 00424T37, English 00390078. You said to the investigator, as I quote, I did not know these people were sent to anywhere, But mainly these people were sent to Kampong Cham and Phnom Penh. My question to you is, when you said that the people who had disappeared were mainly sent to Kampong Cham and Phnom Penh, how did you know about this? Did you know this on your own, or were you told? Response. I'm afraid I forget your question already. Co-prosecutor, well, I would like to now rephrase it. You said you do not know where people could have been sent to, but you believe that these people who had disappeared might have been sent to Kampong Cham and Phnom Penh largely. And the question is, how did you know about this? Response. Regarding the disappearance of the people, these names would be brought to me, and I saw the list of the names of those who had disappeared. Question, could you tell the chamber, please, how were you presented such a list of names? Response. When people disappeared, I did not know, but later on the list of names were brought to me by the investigators, and I were asked whether I remember them, and I told the investigators that indeed I remember them because these individuals worked with me. They only presented the document to me to make sure I confirm whether I knew the individuals or not. So after reading the names presented to me, I could say that this and that a person disappeared or not. Thank you. Concerning the disappearance of the people, for example, like suddenly a person disappeared. What does that mean? Response. That means he or she was arrested. Question. In an event of arrest, who issued such order for the arrest? And where did that happen? The President, Mr. Witness, please hold on. National Counsel for Mr. Kilsampon, you may now proceed. Counsel Kung Som-on. Thank you, Mr. President. I take issue with this question because it is of a hypothetical nature. Because the co-prosecutor used the term if in her line of questioning, which is inviting speculation. Co-prosecutor, Mr. President, please allow me to elaborate on this. This witness already stated before the co-investigating judges on the point. I was seeking clarification, and he said that when people disappeared, it means they had been arrested. He already confirmed this. Mr. Witness, a moment ago, you stated that when you were asked by the investigators whether you knew any people who had been arrested or disappeared, you stated that you knew them. Can you now please tell the chamber whether you remember some of these individuals, including their functions? The President, Madam Co-Prosecutor, can you precisely tell the chamber the period of time, the timeline of your questioning? Which particular date are you referring to? Because if you do not emphasize clearly the period of time you're focusing in, I'm afraid that you mislead us or perhaps talk something that is outside the ambit of the case file 002/01, and your questions shall be relevant to the population's movement of first and second phases. Co-prosecutor, thank you, Mr. President, for reminding us on this. Mr. Sun Kanal indicated that he worked at the messenger unit for a certain period of time, and his tenure at this place is falling squarely within the temporal jurisdiction of the court and the issues before us, and he worked there for the period between 1975 and 79. The President, for that reason, the Chamber asked the co-prosecutor to emphasize precisely when exactly the disappearance happened or the arrest happened. If it happened further than the period immediately during or after the evacuation, then you may not be allowed to do so, as it falls outside the scope of the matter being debated. Co-prosecutor, thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Kanal, when did you learn about the disappearance of some people? How many people had disappeared during the period of 1975? Can you name a few individuals you may recollect? Response. I learned about this appearance only in the area where I had worked. I had no idea what happened at the sectoral level. The names of individuals I can remember were those including Polk. Polk was the head of the security, and he disappeared at a later stage. Then, I don't remember the exact date, then Im was his successor, who then disappeared. After that, at the reception unit, guest reception unit, Lei came to work as the head, and he also disappeared. After Lei had disappeared, Kun came to replace him, who then disappeared soon. And at the military logistic unit, there was a head who also disappeared after the incidents of an explosion. So these individuals are those I remember who had disappeared during that period of time. Question. During the Democratic Cambodia regime, and when you were asked I would like to refer to document 00373516 in Khmer, 00398082, 00424041 in French. It is about the arrest. You said that the Central Committee had the authority to make arrest or issue any order to arrest. Is it your statement? The President, witness, could you please hold on? National Counsel for Mr. Kilsampon, you may proceed. Counsel Kung Som-on. Thank you, Mr. President. I take issue with this line of questioning as it is not within the scope of the current hearing. In other words, it is not within the scope of case file 002/01. If co-prosecutor could be kind enough to say whether this matter is relevant to the first and second phases of the population movement, then I would not object. Co-prosecutor, this question was put time and again by parties to the proceedings, and it was about the communication, how people communicated with one another concerning the disappearance of their colleagues. I believe that this question is relevant and within the scope of these proceedings.
The President, National Prosecutor, can you enlighten the Chamber how your question is relevant to the current case 002/01? Please don't be confused with case 002 as a whole, because the court has already segmented the trial for the whole case 002, and now we are hearing case 002/01, and the Chamber has advised you time and again in relation to this matter, so please be vigilant on this.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Honours, it will be useful to clear this up, I'm sure, for everyone again. But, Mr. President, during the currency of these proceedings, you have heard numerous evidence about authority structures, who ordered who, when and how. You've heard a massive evidence about communication. This evidence falls into precisely that same category. It is evidence that goes to authority structure. That is an overarching principle over case 2-1. And communication 2 is an overarching principle over this case. To give the court some examples, there plainly has been document presentations on communication covering the entire period, not simply 1975, 1976 and 1977. There has been extensive questioning throughout this trial. For instance, as to arrests leading to entry at S21, that questioning has not simply been pursued by the prosecution. Judge Laverne himself, for instance, during the questioning of a telegram witness, Nong Sapang, put to that witness numerous telegrams from 1977 and 1978. So for the purpose of the legitimate inquiry as to authority structure and communications, we respectfully submit that this line of questioning is entirely appropriate.
Mr. President, could I be heard on that point? Thank you. I listened closely to what my colleague had to say, and I don't take issue in a general sense, but his submissions really hinge on whether or not we accept the fiction that there are going to be further mini-trials in case 002. So that would be my submission for the record. Those kinds of overarching areas, as he put it, relate to a very long period of time which does not form the underlying basis of the current trial and are only relevant, again, if we maintain that fiction, which I believe Andrew Cayley himself has gone on record as saying will never happen.
President, prosecutor, you may proceed with your line of questioning. Prosecutor, Mr. Sun Kanel, I am going to ask you one last question. When the investigators ask you who had the authority to decide on the arrest, you told the investigator that those who were arrested at the North Zone were the result of the decision of people at the center, and you said you maintained this statement. So I would like to ask you for your clarification once again that there were certain exceptions as to the arrest of certain individuals at the Central Zone. Response. In carrying out the arrest, my team working at the Telegram section, at certain point in time, they also ask some of our members to assist in the conduct of the search as well. And at that time, Guy Berg told us that the arrest could be pursued only when there was a case against them and there was an order from the upper authority. And if anyone asked him whether or not he had the authority to excuse anyone, for example, to forgive on anyone, he could not do that. There were two issues here. There was two examples. My father-in-law was also part of the problem. At that time, they told me that my father-in-law had been arrested. And then they asked the officer who carried out the arrest. They told me that he was arrested because he had been working as a militia in the village. And then at that time he ordered that he he be released, and he was taken back to the Stone district. And there was another case with my brother-in-law in Kampong Cham province. His wife came to me telling me that her husband had been arrested, and I asked her what was the reason for the arrest. She said that she did not know. And when I took the telegram toward him, I asked him why my brother-in-law had been arrested. He told me that he was not aware of the arrest. Then he summoned the chief of security. Then I asked the chief of the security why he had arrested my brother-in-law. Then I talked to him, so he ordered the release of them. So both of them in these two examples were released. But that was what happened in the zone. But the decision was not from the upper authority, but at that time the arrests were carried out. Question. So long as there was an order from the upper authority, people down below the authority must carry out this order. Is that correct? Response. That is correct. So long as there was an order from the upper authority, the arrest must be carried out, regardless of their relation. Even if, for example, they were husband and wife, so long as there was an order, they had to arrest the person. Question. Can you tell the court the year when the arrests were carried out? Response. To my village, the situation became chaos in late 1977 or early 1978. Question. Following the arrest, did Kai Pok have to report to his upper authority? Response. Could you please repeat your question? Once the order was handed down to Kai Pok, and Kai Pok ordered the arrest of any named individual, following the arrest, did Kai Pok have to report back to the upper authority on the arrest? Response. As a practice, once the arrests were done, then the person would be taken on a truck and carried away to Phnom Penh. Thank you. Question. Now I would like to move on to the next topic on the re-education. They used the word re-education at that time. Do you know what re-education means? Response. Are you talking about the disappearance following the summon for re-education of individuals? If that is correct, to my knowledge, there can be two instances. One is the summon for re-education, the other one is the relocation. Question. Can you distinguish between the two? What is the distinguishing features of these two terms? Response. As far as the re-education was concerned, it was all about the arrest, but they would not use the word literally, otherwise people would evade the arrest. So they had to use this term instead, but it literally means that the person was arrested. That was one of the approaches applied by them at the time. Question. How did they do it when they summoned people for re-education? Did they extend the invitation letter, for example? President, witness, please hold on. National Counsel for Mr. Kilsampon, you may proceed. Counsel Kongsamon, thank you, Mr. President. I would like to object once again to the last few questions posed by the National Prosecutor, because she discussed the re-education as well as the arrest. I believe that these two semantic topics are not relevant at all to the current trial. Prosecutor, may I briefly respond, Mr. President? The last question I asked is intended to ask him to explain how or what means of invitation the organization at that time summoned people for re-education. President, witness is now instructed to respond to the last questions. The objection is not sustained. Witness. There were two forms of summoning people for re-education. It could be through a telegram invitation or through the letters sent to individual peoples. During the Democratic Cambodia period, people were fearful. So once he or she was summoned, he or she would surrender without knowing what was really going on at the time. So once he or she received the summons, they had to surrender. Question. You said that the summoning can take two forms, either through telegram or letter. Do you know who issued the telegram or letters of invitation? Response. The letters came from the zone committee. How about a question? How about telegram? Who produced the telegram? Response. It came from the same source. Question. Did you ever know that those telegrams or letters were sent directly from the center? Response. The documents from the center were sent down to the zone, and then the zones would devise it accordingly, and it was left to the zone to decide on the arrest. And if it was the telegrams, then the telegram section would forward it to the decoders in the telegram section to decode the message before it was implemented. In document E3/411 in ELN 00373511-12, English 00390078, and French 00424038. Extract. The invitation for re-education in Phnom Penh were convened by the age 70 through Telegram. I learned about this through the messenger of the zone. Do you still maintain this statement? Response. On this issue, I maintain my statement.
ចាអរគុណចង់ឲ្យ
Thank you. Can you tell the court who was the messenger of the zone whom you mentioned? Response. He was Ham.
តើមានមនុស្សច្រើនទេដែល
Question. Were there many people who were summoned by MH70 for re-education in Phnom Penh? Response. No, there were not many. Question. If you can expand a little bit further, for instance, the names of individuals who were summoned by Office 870 for re-education in Phnom Penh. Response. I can recall some of them, but once again, I think that it may be rather subjective when the investigator asked me, for example, say from one division, they asked me whether or not I knew this name, and I told the investigator that I have known this name. Vairip from another division, I have also known him, and Lee was also responsible for logistics of the division. I knew him as well. So 3 people. I cannot recall any other names. Question. In the same document, E3/411 ERN 003735 13 English 0039007282 French 00423049 and in Khmer 0035 12216. In the same document, the investigator asks you, and of course the investigator show you the list of prisoners from S21. In this list with ERN 0033 3779 200333795. From number 1 to 360, you told the investigator some of the individuals who were arrested or mysteriously disappeared. Do you still maintain your statement? Response. I maintain my statement. Prosecutor, I will ask you one final question on this. When the investigator asked you, you recall one instance when the bomb was detonated, and you told that the investigator that there was big bombing in Kampong Cham, and the house of the division commander was destroyed, and the house nearby was destroyed as well. And following this explosion, certain individuals were arrested, including Kalpok brother-in-law, Jin. And then after that, many other individuals were arrested following the arrest of Jin. Do you still maintain this statement? Respond, yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Sun Kanel. I have no further question for now. I would like to hand over to my colleague to continue his question. I thank you very much for your answer to my question, and I thank you, Mr. President. I would like to cede the floor to my colleague, President. Thank you. Before you proceed with your line of questionings, International Co-Prosecutor, can you advise the Chamber whether or not you have consulted with the lead co-lawyers as to the time allocation for putting the questions to the witness?
Mr. President, yes, we have consulted. The civil parties do not have many questions. Can I remind, please, Mr. President, you and the other judges that the prosecution questioning today started at 11:10 this morning, and the prosecution, the civil parties, have been given one full day to question Sean Connell. Against that background, I obviously will try and make as much progress as I can this afternoon, but can I please ask that some time is allowed on Monday, given that, as I say, we did not start until 11:10 today.
President, the Chamber will grant the time for you for only one session in the morning for the two parties.
Mr. President, I'm very grateful, and I anticipate that that will be sufficient time. Mr. Connell, good afternoon. My name is Keith Rayner, and I am one of the international co-prosecutors in the Office of the Co-Prosecutors. Good afternoon. I'd like to ask you some questions to clarify the means of communication regarding arrests. In your OCIJ interview, relevant ERN numbers in English 00384433, French 00426154, and Khmer 00373503. When you were asked about communications regarding arrests, you said this, and I quote, "Communications related to arrests were not made by telegram, but by letter through the messenger." And later in that interview, "But if they carried out the arrest in the zone, it would be known to me." Is that correct?
I maintain my statement, but if you would like to ask me for clarification, I will be more than happy to elaborate further. And I would like to elaborate a little further. It was done through letter or messenger. But can you please repeat your question? I am not clear.
Can I break it down? Your quote: "If they carried out the arrest in the zone, it would be known to me." How would it be known to you that there was an arrest being carried out in your zone?
ខ្ញុំសូមឆ្លើយ
I knew it through messenger of the zone, because the messenger unit and the telegram unit work very closely with each other. So whatever decision was made and whatever was written in the telegrams, then they would send it through messenger or so. So we knew the information. That's how I derived the information. And normally the messenger would come to our section and talk with us as well. But I dare not expand further. I simply ask certain information.
Let's talk about a particular arrest or circumstance that you mentioned in your interview. You were talking about the Central Zone Security Office at the Provincial Hall in Kampong Cham, when you saw or heard about some security guards from the centre coming to that security office, and it was to do with a man called Im. Can you please elaborate what you knew about that?
Concerning this issue, our section knew it. Im was the last security chief assigned in Kampong Cham province. At the time, the center almost applied the tolerance principle, but just before that, the center sent officer to inspect the prisoners in Kampong Cham province. So following the search, Im went down to meet the security officers who were from the center, and knowing that Im went to down to the prison cells, they alleged Im as the associate of those prisoners. So they reported to Kai Pok, and Kai Pok ordered the arrest of this person. So of course, at that time, Kai Pok had also to listen to those who received the order from the center. So he ordered the arrest at the time.
So on the subject of arrests, how often was it that cadre from the centre were coming to your zone's security office?
Response. The arrest was made at the very last minute already during the Khmer Rouge regime. So it's by the very end of the regime. The arrest didn't occur very frequently. And so far as I know, that was only an occasion that I learned about such arrest.
All right, Mr. Suankanil, I want to move on to telegrams now, please. You've already said the centre at the top of the hierarchy, next down the zone, next down the sector, next down the district. Now, in your statement to the investigators, English ERN 00384429, French 00426148, Khmer 00373498, you said that each telegram usually talked about the situation of its own unit that needed to be sent to a specific destination. Is that correct?
Response. I'm afraid I don't understand the question. Could you repeat it?
You have a telegram. It's being sent from one location to another location. In your interview, you said that the person sending the telegram was talking in the telegram about the situation of its own unit. Is that correct?
Response. Yes, I still stand by my statement.
Right, thank you. Mr. Surinkin, I want to move on now to telegrams from the centre or from certain brothers that was being sent to a zone, the next level down, and then sent on to a sector. Now, in your interview, when you're talking about these telegrams from the centre, you said this: English ERN 00384429. In fact, they're the same pages as the previous quote. You said this: when the centre sent something to the zone, and the zone sent it to the sector for disseminating, most of those telegrams were directives. Is that correct?
Response. Yes, it is.
Staying on this subject of a telegram from the centre to you at the zone, what was the name of the office or unit based at the centre which dealt with telegrams?
Response. I don't know. During that time, names were not revealed, and that I only knew my work when others were supposed to know theirs.
Was there a name of an office at the centre?
Response. Please repeat that for me.
Mr. Cannell, I'm going to deal with this, in fact, when I show you some telegrams in a moment. Now, the setup at the zone. So this is the central zone after the division of the old North Zone. K. Pauk is the zone secretary. Is that correct?
Response. Yes, it is correct, and I still stand by my statement.
In your team, the telegram team, 5 people. Is that correct?
Response. Yes, it is.
Your job is that you are the Morse code operator sending the telegrams. Is that correct?
Response. Yes, it is.
In your interview, you talked about a telegram translator at the central zone by the name of Chien. Is that correct?
Response. Yes, it is. The President intervenes. Mr. Co-Prosecutor, we should observe some break. The chamber will adjourn for 20 minutes now, and the next session will be resumed by 3 o'clock. Court officer is now instructed to assist the witness during the adjournment and have him return to the courtroom. By then, the court is adjourned.